Tuesday, December 10th. Beware the Court of Owls that watches all the time, ruling Gotham from a shadowy perch behind granite and lime. They watch you at your hearth, they watch you in your bed. Speak not a whispered word of them, or they'll send the talon for your head.
Oh. So ladies, gentlemen of the Bat family, welcome back to a brand new The Batman video. Now this is about, I guess, part 2, part 3, because one of the biggest questions I've got on the channel since the inception, and I'm talking like the inception of Matt Reeves' Batman, only growing more and more as time goes on, given that we're getting a sequel, and I guess how we technically can't rule anything out when it comes to the villains that Matt Reeves might try and do, is, you know, will the Court of Owls be in the Batman Part 2, or possibly the Batman Part 3? So in this video, I'm going to try and answer that question, even entertain the idea of what it would be like if it were to happen, but also through implementing an additional question, through answering should the Court of Owls appear? And I think through exploring that idea too, it would just shine light on the whole topic in general. And I guess you could kind of look at this video as like a bonus Rogues Gallery adaptation series video. That's a series, if you don't know already, that I've got running on the channel. I haven't done an episode in a while, but it's where we explore, hey, what could this Rogues Gallery villain be like if Matt Reeves was to adapt them in Part 2 or Part 3? I've covered Ivy, I've covered Mr. Freeze, so I guess this is like a Court of Owls one, kind of. And to be honest, you guys aren't the only people who would love to see the Court of Owls. I mean, after all, listen to the Batman himself.
I was definitely kind of thinking Court of Owls is probably going to be in the sequel. It definitely seems like...
I do want to stress though, before we get into anything else, because I see many people have pointed out this clip since it first came out, saying, well, Robert Pattinson himself said this, you know. But honestly, that doesn't really mean anything, because it's just Pattinson's own thoughts on it and him finding it cool, and this wouldn't really impact the ultimate choice to have this group included in future installments. That is all down to Matt Reeves.
I mean, I'm literally just guessing. I just keep saying it.
So, very quickly, just in case you aren't so familiar with the Court of Owls, even though I'm sure many of you are, let's do a quick rundown on the group that actually skyrocketed me back into the Batman fandom many years ago now, and just why so many fans are dying to see a live-action version of the Court of Owls on screen. So, essentially, the Court of Owls, as you may have heard, is a secret society that has controlled Gotham for a very long time. We're talking centuries. The Court of Owls is founded by Gotham's oldest and most influential families, and they more or less use their wealth and combined power and murder through the use of their Talon assassins to assert their power and control throughout that of Gotham's history. They wear white owl masks and have secret headquarters all around Gotham, and a lot of people have actually heard of the Court of Owls, but it's just deemed nothing more than a conspiracy, this kind of nursery rhyme that children know of, a little scary tale to tell, so nobody really ever takes it too seriously as a threat. Now, the reason why people really like this as a pitch for one of Matt Reeves' Batman movies is because, well, and I have to admit here, it does at face value, with my fan goggles on, so just seeing the pure coolness of it is what I mean when I say that, it does feel like it would look and fit perfectly with the aesthetic, the epic crime saga, if you will, the tag that Matt Reeves has put on his Batman trilogy. Ultimately, it does feel in its bones something that would fit in naturally in this corrupt Gotham, one that has, you know, already explored corruption very well. And how, what if, I suppose, if the Riddler didn't even scratch the surface of the corruption deeply rooted in Gotham? But right there, that's the thing, right? That's the thing, that the pitch, if you will, that people are like, yeah, what if? But that is also the very thing where it's like, but corruption again? Don't get me wrong, there'll always be like a main course movie served with a side of corruption in any Batman story, and I'm sure part 2 and part 3, but a whole movie centered around exposing corruption. Just like the first movie, that's where, despite the popularity surrounding this desire for the Court of Owls in a future Reeves Batman installment, it's where the kind of I don't know comes in. But then, ladies and gentlemen, even then, that's when you get a lot of people saying, but the corruption behind the corruption, though, am I right? And this is where we can actually take a look at what the waves and waves of fans have said, with moments like this being used to suggest evidence of clues of that of the Court of Owls within the Batman Part 1.
What people? So much bigger than you could ever imagine. It's the whole system.
So the idea with this specific scene that people have been talking about for a very long time, with Coulson saying, I have family, people that I love, they'll kill them too. And Batman's like, who will? People are watching. What people? It's so much bigger than you could ever imagine. It's the whole system. That this could be a clue to the Court of Owls being subtly seeded in there by Matt Reeves. But in reality, guys, this just, and I'm not trying to be a party pooper, you know me, I do like reaching here on this channel. This just tells me that Coulson is talking about all of Falcone's puppets, the Gotham elites that are embedded as the very pillars of Gotham's system that the movie is all about. The first movie, that's it, basically. I mean, think about it, guys. Falcone had the mayor in his pocket, the commissioner, the district attorney to not prosecute certain cases, and it goes on and on and on, and they are the whole system. But again, I do get how people still read beyond that and pierce that veil to be like, well, oh my god, it could still be the court. What if Falcone was aware of the court, or was a part of it, acted on behalf of them, but was in reality just their figurehead, if you will, a fitting mascot, since he's the kingpin of crime, even a fool guy, if you will. But to be honest, I still just take a step back. I'm sure the corruption storyline in the Batman was actually loosely inspired by the conspiracy of corruption that was explored in the Court of Owls storyline, among many other inspirations in the movie, like The Long Halloween and this, that, and the other, Batman Ego. But to me, this line just also simply fits into the scheme of corruption that was being uncovered by Batman and the Riddler, and it doesn't really go beyond that. But speaking of Falcone, you then get that other scene between him and Batman that a lot of people have come to me over the years with.
Secrets coming out? Let me tell you something. Whatever I know, whatever I've done, it's all going with me to my grave.
So you can guess where I'm going with this. People have pointed this scene out with regards to Falcone being a part of the court and taking that secret to his grave, but I'm pretty sure this just means, well, anything Falcone had done in his life, which he's done, my god, many things, from the corruption to anything else, is just going to the grave with him. And if anything, I think this could have been a nod, a little meta nod at the Waynes, since the story of the Batman explored how it was actually him who got the Waynes killed, whereas Falcone initially told Bruce that Maroni was to blame for that, but good old Alfred seemed to clear that situation up. So I think really it could be something to do with that, but as for it meaning something larger, deeper, conspiracy-wise for the Court of Owls, I don't think so. And oh god, guys, oh god, don't get me started on this bloody part from the GCPD. Oh my god, do you guys know how many people went at me when we got that Batman trailer and people were pointing out that in the GCPD, and people still believe this when the movie came out, that you could spot a Court of Owls member just strolling one of the floors, the many floors, that Batman ascended with his grapple hook as he was escaping the GCPD scene. No matter how many times I pointed this out, that guys, I mean, really, you're saying that an actual Court of Owls member wearing one of the white Court of Owls masks was just casually strolling by one of the floors of the GCPD around a bunch of cops. Hey, don't mind my random ass mask. And I know some people would then just say, well, it's not like they know he's a Court of Owls member or what that even means. But even still, just the idea of, hey, I'm just in my mask strolling around the GCPD. I don't know. But yes, it was just the lighting. But I know there's people who still subscribe to this, so One day this will become true, I'm sure. But to entertain this for a second, let's actually really try this story out for a future installment in the Batman trilogy. What could it actually be like? And then let's evaluate it. So most people's idea of Matt Reeves tackling it would be that, as I said earlier, in how the Riddler didn't really even scratch the surface as much as he think he did of the corruption of Gotham. And so, throughout the movie, that status quo that was in Gotham previously, which was previously controlled of all of those major pillars of Gotham's elite in Falcone's pocket, with perhaps, of course, other shadow members of the court behind that of Carmine Falcone, it then expands into a larger corruption story that could, I guess, be naturally tackled in a future installment. Perhaps, let's just say, the Batman Part 3, and we have a little breather with Part 2 having some kind of other Rogues Gallery villain. Now, the thing is, if you go further down this line of thinking, the Court of Owls could be pretty enraged with how, due to the exposing of deep corruption in the first movie by the Riddler, and I guess subsequently with Batman's investigation, there's now nothing in place that is firmly in their control. What was in their control of the previous regime and status quo. Since now Gotham's restoring its pillars with a new mayor, with Bella Real, of course, a new commissioner on the way, and a new district attorney that's possibly Harvey Dent. So I guess you could say this is when they'd maybe start to retaliate. I guess this is where you could explore ideas. Feel free to expand in the comments below if you really do subscribe to this idea and can see a possibility, but there could be similar killings from the court enforcing their means by their assassin talons, similar to panels like this that I'm showing on the screen of the Court of Owls story from the New 52, and I guess Bruce investigates. But once again, the more I go down these avenues of entertaining the story, all while it is a fascinating one to ponder, because as I admitted earlier, like at face value, imagining a Matt Reeves version of the Court of Owls does sound really cool, and the aesthetic of his Gotham, just imagining it all play out, is like eye candy for a lot of us Batman fans, especially with the Court of Owls and the City of Owls stories being such an awesome way to get into Batman for so many people. But the thing is, I just can't really get past this one thing that I've maintained this whole time, and I don't know if this is going to change minds of some people, or if some people will still be very insistent despite what I'm about to say. With the core-rooted corruption of Gotham already being explored in the first film, I think it would still feel thematically repetitive, I guess you could say, going through another similar unmasking story. Even if it was just naturally, I guess you could say, naturally expanded out from the plot of the first film for it to be continued in another layer behind the layer of corruption, it just, my outlook on it has always been such that with, I guess, only 3 movies being the target of this trilogy, the Batman Part 2 and the Batman Part 3, that's if we get Part 3, if Part 2 is successful, obviously, you should ideally offer something else with an antagonist, rather than that of kind of, even though, yes, it won't be the exact same thing, it won't be Riddler unmasking the corruption like the first movie, but let's not pretend that it wouldn't be fairly similar. Imagine reviews coming out of the movie, right? People would be like, oh, okay, Court of Owls, this is cool, I liked this performance, Robert Pattinson was amazing again, but the story, the bones that make it up, does feel kind of... It'll be reviews like that, wouldn't it? And I think it's important for me to say again and stress again here that I think with the next 2 installments of what is described as this epic crime saga is that there will still likely be corruption in Gotham that's showcased in Part 2 and eventually Part 3. I mean, heck, Oz is ascending to Kingpin by the end of his own The Penguin spin-off series, and with that power will come quite a bit of influence, and therefore maybe a tidbit of corruption. But to do a whole other movie with, in theory, 2 movies remaining about unmasking corruption, you would then really only have 1 movie left to showcase another Rogues Gallery villain that can really take the story elsewhere in all kinds of new interesting avenues. Let's just say, for example's sake here, the Scarecrow, or I don't know, insert your own Rogues Gallery villain here. And so I think as a result, despite how many people put those fan goggles on, innocently so, and think it's such a cool idea, of which I do agree with, people, I think, do and are craving something else with a new villain or two for the remaining installments of this Batman trilogy. So with that being said, I don't think the Court of Owls will be in any future Matt Reeves Batman movie. I mean, let me rephrase that. If we had like 6 movies, I mean, I know a lot of people out there are always saying, how do you know it's a trilogy? How do you know we're not going to get 6 movies? Guys, I'm very confident that we're going to get 3 movies. I mean, that's if part 2 is successful at the box office, because don't get me wrong, if it made Shazam! Fury of the Gods money, which it won't, but just for argument's sake, they probably wouldn't greenlight a part 3. But yes, the plan in old Matt Reeves interviews has always been like a 3-movie thing. But if we had like 6 movies, then I would say, yeah, sure. Like, you could give us a few movies with, let's just say, I don't know, Scarecrow, and then you could get into Mad Hatter or like whoever you want, and then maybe revisit an even deeper rooted corruption that would be a nice callback to the first movie because you thought it was all over. And in the movie since, sure, you've had Scarecrow to deal with, Professor Pig, or whoever it may be, and you've had the mayor and the new district attorney really help restore Gotham with Bruce Wayne coming more into his philanthropic mode and this, that, and the other. Sure, there's been tidbits of corruption here and there with the Penguin and whatnot, but, you know, for the most part, it's just been Batman dealing with his rogues gallery characters and whatnot. But then, movie number 5, you actually do have, like, I don't know, like a post-credit scene or like an end credit scene of movie number 4, the Batman Part 4 in this case, where it teases something back to the Riddler's corruption expose from the first movie, in where there was more to it. That's when that would feel like, okay, you know, maybe it's been years and years since we've had something like that. It would be viable to explore. But with 2 left, I think people, despite the popularity of the Court, when you really do evaluate it enough, like, we want to see a Batman villain, a Rogues Gallery villain that hasn't really been adapted before. Now, yeah, I guess you could say the Court of Owls haven't been in a movie, but we've had, yeah, I'm not saying they're great examples, but Gotham, you've had the recent Gotham Knights video game. Like, the Court of Owls have been explored, and I'm not saying Matt Reeves wouldn't do them insane justice, so there is also the relevancy of, hey, but if Matt Reeves did them, it would still be really awesome. I get that. But how about, you know, other villains that he could adapt, innovate, not necessarily copy and paste, as I always say, but the Rogues Gallery characters that you guys really want to see, and 2 more for the Batman Part 2 and Part 3 that really do give other flavors outside of, you know, going head over heels into corruption again, like that of the first movie. So I just don't see it happening, but let me know if you do disagree with me, because no matter what, as I said, when you entertain and explore the storyline, there is an avenue and a path that they can walk down to continue that. Quite literally, you can have corruption within corruption. So are you dead set on that? Absolutely dead set? Or are you more on the side of, you know what, I would love them to, but no matter what, I'd rather Part 2 be about this villain or whatever Matt Reeves has got to do there, and the Batman Part 3 maybe being about this villain or Barry Keoghan's Joker finally breaking out of Arkham and maybe doing something like that. But now that I've said that, I know I'm going to get comments saying, well, I don't want Joker again in this trilogy, blah, blah, blah. Look, let me know your villain or your choice outside that of the Court, or for you, is it still the Court of Owls no matter what? If you got the chance, would you press the button to have them in Part 2 or Part 3? But ladies and gentlemen, that is basically everything I've got to say about it. This has been honestly one of my most long requested videos on the channel, and now this video is out there. People in the future can now come to it as we get probably closer to the Batman Part 2. I wouldn't be surprised if there's another lighting situation that makes people think, oh my god, is that a Court of Owls member? Oh my god, is that a Talon? Oh my god, that lamppost was framed just like that. It looks like the Talon's eyes. I think this won't go until Part 3 is, you know, done. But yeah, I just wanted to get this up, get my thoughts out there, have a little hub of discussion in the comments, because I'm sure people will still be on various sides of the Court of Owls spectrum. But let me know any and all thoughts. I love reading comments on videos like this, so I will be keeping an eye down in that comment section. If you made it this far as well, I really appreciate you. Thank you for enjoying and watching the Batman content on this channel. If you did actually enjoy it, that is, and leave a like if you did. Do consider subscribing for more bonus videos like this. But until next time, thank you again. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you fellow Bat family in the next video. Goodbye.